Golden Sun's story is one that I enjoy for a number of reasons. It has great characters, a fun combat system, Isaac the hero, and of course Saturos, the main villain of the first game. Saturos, not necessarily a satyr of Greek myth, but plays out like one, as his name suggests, lends himself to the story in many ways. One of them is his iconic dragon form, while the other are his many effective and some ineffective traits that bring out Golden Sun's story to be quite remarkable. Welcome to Villainalysis. Saturo's charismatic leadership is a key factor that makes him a formidable antagonist in Golden Sun, as it enables him to command loyalty, drive the plot forward, and present a united front against the protagonist. Unlike a mere brute force villain, Saturos inspires his allies through a combination of sheer confidence, persuasive rhetoric, and a clear vision, traits that make him more compelling and a dangerous foe. His ability to rally others around the cause of restoring alchemy, despite its risks, demonstrates his skill as a leader. For example, Minardi, his longtime partner, follows him without hesitation, showcasing a deep mutual respect, trust that strengthens their effectiveness as antagonists. Even Alex, a cunning and self-serving ally, cooperates with Saturos despite his own hidden agenda, indicating that Saturos' authority is difficult to ignore or undermine. Additionally, successfully manipulates Ivan and Sheba into aiding his mission, proving he can exploit others' weaknesses when intimidation isn't enough. His leadership is most evident in his dynamic with Felix. After Saturos' death, Felix takes up his mantle, suggesting that his influence persists beyond his physical presence. This lingering impact underscores how his charisma wasn't just about force, but about convincing others that his cause was necessary. Without Saturos' ability to unite and direct his followers, the antagonist's efforts would have been fractured early, making his leadership essential to the conflict's escalation. His charisma doesn't just make him strong, it makes the entire antagonistic force a more credible and persistent threat. Saturos' power and skill establish him as one of the most intimidating antagonists in Golden Sun, as his sheer combat prowess and mastery of synergy makes him a relentless and nearly insurmountable obstacle for Isaac and his allies. From the moment he is introduced, Saturo exudes an aura of overwhelming strength. His very presence at Soul Sanctum forces the protagonist to flee, immediately cementing his dominance. Unlike lesser foes who rely on numbers or trickery, Saturo's proving himself in a direct confrontation, such as when he effortlessly defeats the warriors of Vale without breaking a sweat, showcasing his superiority over even trained adepts. His mastery of fire-based synergy allows him to unleash devastating attacks like Flare Wall and Meteor, which push the heroes to the limits in battle. Even when outnumbered, Saturos remains a lethal threat. His duel with Isaac at Venus Lighthouse demonstrates his ability to hold his own against multiple skilled opponents, forcing them to fight defensively rather than overpowering him outright. His physical might is further emphasized when he transforms into a fusion dragon, a monstrous fusion of raw power that takes the combined effort of Isaac's entire party to defeat. Beyond brute strength, Saturos is also a skilled tactician, manipulating events to ensure the lighting of the elemental lighthouses, whether through coercion as with Ivan and Sheba, or calculated force. His competence makes him a persistent threat throughout the game, ensuring that the protagonists never feel truly safe until he is vanquished. Without his immense power and battle prowess, the stakes of Golden Sun would feel far lower. His strength is what makes the journey to stop him feel desperate and urgent, solidifying his role as a truly formidable antagonist. Additionally, his strategic brilliance and intelligence elevate him from a mere physical threat to a cunning and calculated one throughout the game, creating him as a persistent and dangerous foe throughout the story. Unlike villains who rely solely on brute force, Saturos demonstrates a keen understanding of manipulation, long-term planning, and psychological warfare to achieve his goals. One of his most effective strategies is using the protagonists themselves as pawns. After stealing the elemental stars, he allows Isaac's group to pursue him, knowing they will inadvertently help bypass the trials guarding the lighthouses. This is particularly evident at Venus Lighthouse, where Saturos not only anticipates the hero's arrival, but engineers Shiva's kidnapping to enforce Felix into aiding his mission. Exploiting Felix's sense of honor, his ability to adapt his plans on the fly is showcased when he seizes the opportunity to manipulate Ivan into joining his cause. Recognizing the Wind Adept's usefulness, even in combat, Saturo fights intelligently, prioritizing high-impact synergy spells and leveraging the environment to his advantage, as seen in his fiery assaults at Mercury Lighthouse. His partnership with the enigmatic Alex further underscores his strategic mind, as he recognizes the value of allying with someone whose knowledge complements his strength. Ultimately, Saturo's greatest tactical move is his transformation to a fusion dragon, a last resort that nearly annihilates the heroes, proving that even in defeat, his cunning ensures the conflict reaches a devastating climax. Without his sharp intellect and strategic maneuvering, the antagonist's efforts would lack direction and menace. It is Saturo's ability to outthink his opponents as much as overpower them to make him such an unforgettable villain. Saturo's unyielding determination and absolute conviction in his cause make him a uniquely formidable antagonist, as his relentless pursuit of restoring alchemy drives the entire conflict forward with unstoppable momentum. Unlike villains motivated by personal gain or petty vengeance, Saturos genuinely believes that reviving alchemy is essential for the world's survival, and this ideological uncertainty makes him both intimidating and strangely admirable. From the outset, his single-minded focus is evident when he storms Saul's sanctum, willing to risk everything to steal the elemental stars despite the dangers. Even after being pursued across Wayard, he never wavers, demonstrating an almost fanatical resolve where he pressures Felix into cooperation by kidnapping Sheba, showing that he will exploit any means necessary to achieve his goals. His conviction is so powerful that it inspires loyalty in others, particularly Minardi, who follows him without question and even influences Felix to continue the mission after Saturo's death. At Mercury Lighthouse, Saturo's willingness to battle to the death against Isaac's group proves that no obstacle, not even powerful adversaries, will deter him. His final act, merging with Minardi to become the fusion dragon, epitomizes his devotion. He would rather face annihilation than abandon his mission. This unshakable resolve forces the protagonist to grow stronger and confront hard moral choices, as they cannot reason or negotiate with someone so ideologically entrenched. Saturo's determination doesn't just make him a strong antagonist, it makes him a driving force of the narrative, ensuring that every battle and sacrifice feels urgent and inevitable. Without his ironclad will, the stakes of Golden Sun would lack their compelling weight, cementing his role as a villain whose conviction is as dangerous as his power. Saturo's moral complexity elevates him beyond a one-dimensional villain, making him a compelling antagonist whose motivations blur the line between righteousness and ruthlessness in Golden Sun. Unlike traditional evil for evil's sake foes, Saturos genuinely believes that the restoration of alchemy is necessary to save his people in Prox and prevent the world's stagnation and technological decline, framing his actions as a harsh but necessary sacrifice for the greater good. This ideological conviction creates tension, as players can understand, if not agree with, his perspective, particularly when contrasted with Isaac's party, who initially opposed him more out of duty than full understanding of the consequences. His willingness to manipulate and harm others for his cause, such as kidnapping Sheba and coercing Felix into servitude, demonstrates this morally gray nature he possesses. He is not needlessly cruel, but he will cross ethical lines without hesitation if it advances his mission. Even in the final act, merging with Minority to create the fusion dragon, this highlights his duality. It is a desperate, monstrous act, yet it stems from his unwavering commitment to his people's survival. The game further complicates his morality through Felix's arc. As the former antagonist eventually adopts Saturos' mission, retroactively lending weight to the original villain's arguments. This nuance forces players to question whether Saturos was truly wrong or simply more radical in his methods, an ambiguity that lingers long after his defeat. By embedding Saturos with this moral depth, Golden Sun crafts an antagonist who feels both threatening and tragically justified, ensuring his legacy persists not just as a villain, but as a dark mirror to the hero's own journey. Saturo's overconfidence and arrogance serve as critical flaws that undermine his effectiveness as an antagonist, ultimately leading to his downfall in the story. His unshakable belief of his own superiority blinds him to any growing threats posed by Isaac and his allies, causing him to repeatedly underestimate their resilience and potential. This hubris is evident early on when he dismisses the protagonists as insignificant children after the theft of the elemental stars, failing to anticipate their determination to pursue him across Wayard. At Mercury Lighthouse, his arrogance reaches its peak when he taunts the heroes mid-battle, confident in their inevitable victory, only to be caught off guard by their strategic prowess and forced to retreat, a humiliating setback for someone who views himself as invincible. Even his alliance with Felix is tainted by this condescension. Saturos treats Felix as a mere tool rather than an equal, never considering that his coerced ally might harbor resentment or defiance. This lack of foresight proves fatal at Venus Lighthouse, where his refusal to acknowledge Isaac's party as legitimate threats leads him to fight them head-on without proper preparation, culminating in his defeat and transformation into the Fusion Dragon, a desperate last-ditch effort born of wounded pride. His overconfidence also blinds him to Alex's manipulations, as he never suspects that his quote-unquote ally might be using him for ulterior motives. These flaws humanize Saturos, making him more than a generic villain, but they also ensure his role as a cautionary figure, a powerful force undone by his inability to respect his opponents. In the end, his arrogance doesn't just weaken him, it actively empowers the heroes, as each of his miscalculations gives them the openings they need to prevail. Without this fatal pride, Saturos might have succeeded, but with it, he becomes a testament to the dangers of underestimating one's enemies. Saturo's lack of deep personal motivations significantly weakens his impact as an antagonist within the story, because his character often feels more like a force of nature than a fully realized villain with emotional stakes in the conflict. While his overarching goal to restore alchemy and save Prox provides a broad ideological drive, the narrative never fully explores his personal connection to this mission in a meaningful way. Unlike more compelling antagonists who are shaped by tragedy, betrayal, and a twisted moral code, Saturos operates primarily as a ruthless executor of his people's will. Devoid of intimate backstory or inner conflict, this makes his actions feel impersonal, reducing the emotional weight of his clashes with the protagonist. For example, his destruction in Vale and kidnapping of Sheba are presented as cold, calculated moves rather than acts born of passion or desperation, which lessens their dramatic impact. Even his dynamic with Minority, his closest ally, lacks depth. Their bond is one of loyalty, shared purpose, but the game never delves into their history or what truly binds them beyond duty. This absence of personal investment becomes especially glaring when compared to Felix, who later inherits Saturos' mission, but does so with far more emotional complexity, driven by guilt, familial ties, and a nuanced understanding of the costs involved. Saturos' death scene further highlights this weakness. While his final stand is visually striking, it lacks the pathos of a villain who grapples with his choices or regrets, making his defeat feel inevitable rather than tragic. Had the narrative fleshed out his personal ties to Prox, such as showing him as a father figure to its people or a survivor of its decline, his villainy would have resonated more deeply. Instead, he remains a hollow vessel for conflict, formidable in power but forgettable in substance. A missed opportunity that makes the central antagonist of Golden Sun as compelling as the heroes who oppose him. Despite the narrative and technical limitation of the Game Boy Advance era, Saturos succeeded as a effective villain by embodying the raw intimidation and ideological conviction that Golden Sun needed to launch its epic conflict. His imposing presence, mastery of synergy, and unwavering determination made him a memorable first antagonist, one who set the stakes high enough through sheer force of will. While his lack of backstory and premature defeat reflect the constraints of the medium, his legacy lived on through Felix's arc, proving his influence extended beyond his death. In the end, Saturos served his purpose, a catalyst for the journey, a benchmark of power, and a dark mirror to the hero's resolve, flaws, and all. Thank you, dear viewer, for listening. Please subscribe, share, and comment telling me what you want to see discussed in the future. Goodbye.